Ha ha ha, he he he, you are here and so are we. Ha ha ha, he he he, you are here and so are we. First of all, tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey with Swimtime.
Okay, my journey with swim time actually, bizarrely, started when I took my boys swimming lessons. So I didn't know it at the time, but when I first took them swimming, it was with swim time. So that was how I really first of all came across the brand, and then I met the owner of the brand at a networking event. We got chatting, and I ended up working with them, getting the business ready for sale, which happened in 2016. So then the new owner asked me to stay on. And here I am today as the managing director of Swimtime. So my journey has been really unusual in that how I've got to be where I am. But yeah, it all started with my son's swimming lessons.
And that's actually really a nice point, actually, that you actually had a need to go to Swimtime. So you've been the customer and you've done the journey.
Absolutely. I mean, yeah, it's really weird how it's just sort of gone full circle in that sense. I think quite unique as well, actually.
Oh, absolutely. And as I said, like you've got that journey, so you've been the customer, so you can understand what customers are looking for, what they want when they come to swim time. So, for our listeners at home, could you just tell us a little bit about what swim time is, if they've never heard of swim time?
Okay, it's a really established swimming school. So we've been around since 1998. That's when swim time first started. Yeah, I know, all those years ago. So over the years, we've built up a massive bank of knowledge and expertise. We operate on a national basis, so we cover the whole of the UK and Northern Ireland through our franchise business owners. So we've got franchisees all over the country delivering the swim time model and delivering the swim time experience in terms of lessons. Our core age group is age 4 to 11. Having said that, we do baby lessons and toddlers, and we do adult lessons as well, both on a group and on a private basis as well. But our core is age 4 to 11. That's really where we specialise. And I would say our other area of specialism is that of disability. We are an inclusive swim school, so we work with all ages and all abilities.
Oh, amazing! And it's so vast. It's like quite vast people that you work with, isn't it? Which is like, as you said, from toddlers, little ones, to adults. So I guess their needs are all quite different. So that's amazing that you cover that. And as you say, over the whole of the country as well. Let's get into the swimming side of things. So why is swimming such an important life skill for children? Would you say, especially during perhaps those earlier years?
In the early years, every child is obviously developing at a rate of knots, and a lot of what they do later in their life is formed before they're age 7. So every experience that they are exposed to will be stuck with them, and they will follow that through for the remainder of their lives. So getting them into swimming as soon as possible is a really good thing because it helps with physical development, the cognitive development, motor neuron skills, all of those aspects that really help a child develop. So it's not necessarily in the early days about teaching them to swim. It's about the whole physical and mental aspect that they can get, all the good things that they can use later in life. And it's about developing those as early as possible.
That's really interesting you say that, because with rhythm and time classes, they say similar things. So it's not necessarily about getting the children into music, but it's helping with the speech and the language. So it's very similar. I guess, is it also about the confidence as well around water? Because I can imagine that could be quite daunting for little ones.
Confidence plays a big part, which is why we tend to keep our groups on a group basis. They're very small, so we will most probably have a maximum of 8 in a class. More often than not, it's only 5 or 6 in a class. So a child gets a lot of attention from our teachers, and that attention then helps them boost confidence. So they not only gain confidence in their own physical abilities, they gain confidence in things like social interaction, learning to interact with other children, or also learning to interact with the teacher, because even if they're not at school yet, they might be at a nursery, for example. So they'll be around adults that are trying to teach them skills and help them develop in some way or other. So that's really what swimming is doing. It's exposing them to that at a very, very early stage, so that again it puts them in good stead for other things that they're going to do in their lives, just like with rhythm time.
Yeah, they're like sponges, aren't they? They kind of take everything in. So I guess it's a great time to start. Would you say the earlier the better with swimming to start?
Yeah, definitely. I think the sort of best age is about 6 months old, because that's when a child is still really confident in the water. They've not forgotten, bizarrely, what it's like to be in the womb, and they can feel very relaxed in the water at that age. And getting them involved at that age is going to help them develop a lot of their fine motor skills. So things like just joint strength, balance, confidence generally about being around water. And that's the key thing, is that confidence. So the idea is that obviously a baby can't learn to swim, but what they can learn is how to float. They can learn how to turn around and reach for something like the side of the pool, for example. So, if heaven forbid something ever did happen and they fell into water, they don't panic. They think, it feels very familiar. They know exactly what to do. They hold their head above water, they turn and they grab, they latch onto something. And that you can teach those skills at an incredibly young age.
Yeah, and I guess that's almost before they've got all these kind of preconceptions about water and get old. When they're a bit older, they get a bit scared potentially. So it's probably better to do it before they're too knowing.
Yeah, because you're absolutely right, because I think most parents do notice a difference once your child reaches the toddlers, sort of 18 months, 2 years. All of a sudden they get an opinion and they become quite vocal about the fact that they don't want to take part in something. So the sooner you can get them involved in swimming, the better. Then hopefully, I think you're still going to get a little bit of pushback, because that's just like a rite of passage with a child. But I think they're going to be more likely to stay with it and be more confident.
Absolutely. And it's really interesting because I think many people think swimming is for safety, the main reason, which it is, but also you've added all of these additional benefits that children can get from swimming, all the motor skills and the cognitive skills and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. There are lots of stats as well that show that, as well as it's like any activity, any children's activity will help reduce childhood obesity. It will help them develop social skills. It helps them with their cardiovascular fitness. It helps them with their personal confidence, their cognitive skills. And there are stats around how children that are engaged in an activity, an after school activity of some description, perform better at school, because they're able to focus, they're able to concentrate, and therefore, going back to your point of them being like little sponges, that all helps. So even if it's not swimming, getting your children active and doing something physical actually helps them learn at school. So it's a really good thing.
Absolutely. And we say that again with rhythm time, bringing it back to rhythm time, that having a child that hasn't started school yet, but is able to sit and concentrate for 30 minutes and listen and share and things like that. And I guess it's the same principle, isn't it? With swimming, you're listening to a teacher, you're taking it in.
Yeah, absolutely. And those are massively important skills. I mean, they even impact on things like the learner. The sooner they learn to be in that environment and cope with it, it helps reduce anxiety. As they develop as individuals, it helps them cope with that anxiety, which particularly in this day and age, there's a lot of focus around the mental health and well-being of children, and anxiety, one of the sort of hang-ups that we've had, seem to have inherited from COVID. Anything that can help reduce that or give a child the tools, the wherewithal to cope with that has to be a good thing. And I think any physical activity, anything, rhythm time or whatever children's activity it is, it's going to help tackle some of those bigger issues.
Absolutely. And again, keeping active and things like that is great for your mental health, isn't it? So that's a great way of keeping active. So what's Swim Time's approach? How do you, because you mentioned this vast, you start from little children all the way up to adults. What's your approach? How do you make this learning enjoyable to children? How do you keep children engaged? Have you got an approach?
Yeah, our approach is about fun. So our strap line is learn and having fun. And it is about every lesson, yeah, it is about every lesson being a fun experience, because if a child is having fun, or anybody, even an adult, if you're having fun, the anxiety goes out the window. You then will learn more because you're more focused, because you're concentrating on having fun, and you might even forget about the fact you're actually learning a skill. And that is what is the specialist skills that our teachers have, our swim teachers have, is that knack of engaging children. And they think they're playing, but what they're actually doing is learning key skills that will help them develop their swimming skills, their swimming technique, their floating technique. There are lots of games that our teachers play. It's not a regimented approach of you swim up and down until you get your stroke absolutely perfect. Water safety is the first thing. Water confidence is the next thing. If they want to become Olympic athletes, then we will pass them on to a swim school that will help them really hone in on those skills. We're not looking to develop the next Olympian. That's not what we do. It is about making it fun.
That's a great approach to have. And I guess the more fun the children are having, the more they will come back and they want to do more and they just want to get involved and learn. So what's the philosophy behind this learning through fun approach? Does it help? Have you found that it does help children learn better? Have you actually found that that's
Because as soon as you have too serious an environment, a child will lose focus. So our philosophy is very much about making it fun and working the lesson at the child's pace. So you've got a group of individuals in a lesson, and not everybody learns at the same pace. I mean, it's like school generally. Nobody goes into a classroom and everybody learns at exactly the same pace. We all have our own way of learning, and our teachers focus in on that. So they will recognize that somebody might be not developing or picking up a skill as quickly as others are. So they will then give the ones that are doing really well at that skill, they'll give them slightly a more challenging skill, which will then give them time to focus on those that might be struggling or a little bit slow. And it's working that balance. So our philosophy is to be inclusive, as I said at the beginning, and in that we mean and capturing the different paces that everybody learns and progresses at, and making sure that we don't leave anybody behind.
that's really nice to recognize that as well. So as you say, some people you can actually tell might need a little bit more support than others. How does that work when, so you mentioned obviously you have additional needs children or adults, so how does that work in those situations?
It depends on, with the special needs, it depends on the severity of the need, because in some scenarios you can only do it on a one-to-one basis. If you need to hoist a child into the pool, for example, or if they need that close proximity of a teacher to assist them at any point, then a private lesson, a one-to-one would work. as far as possible, we would try and include all children in a group lesson. And the skill of the teacher is to structure that lesson so that whatever the skill that they're learning that day, whatever fun activity they are taking part in, that everybody is included in that, that there is a something that everybody can do.
That's a really nice keep that inclusivity is a really nice thought. So for children, they all feel part of something that they're learning together. And obviously, as you mentioned earlier, the social skills and the confidence and that side of things would come there.
Absolutely, because the more inclusive you can make it, the more you're normalizing any child that might have specific needs. It all gets normalized, which is the best thing in terms of they then feel inclusive and on a level with everybody else. And that's what you want because yeah, working together to the same aim, and that's what we want to do.
And I also think there's something to be said for, I know it's a little bit different, but at nursery, when my little girl's eating with other children, she's kind of more focused and she follows what they're doing. So there must be some element of that as well that you see in your classes, that they're kind of following what the other one's doing. And
Yeah, because it's part of the positive reinforcement loop. So they're getting feedback from the teacher in terms of well done, thumbs up, that's great work. But also they're looking to their peers within that group, whatever the activity is, whatever the class-based activity is, they're getting positive reinforcement because if they can see the person next to them doing it, they're like, oh yeah, I need to do it like that for it to be able to work. So it's a really rewarding activity to be part of. Generically, I'm really passionate about children being active uh, because I know the benefits. I've seen it in my sons. I've recognised it in myself, and even as adults, the adults that approach us for swimming lessons, it's things like you get grandparents, they've suddenly become grandparents and they get invited on the family holiday and they go, "Oh, I can't swim." And so they come to us and they'll say, I really, really want to learn to swim to be with my grandchild to experience that. And then other adults we get who for whatever reason, something's happened in their life and they've lost confidence. They feel they can't go in water. They really struggle to even go into the changing rooms because they just lack confidence. And to be able to work with somebody to turn them around into somebody who is then confident going into the water, actually enjoys the physical aspect of it. We had somebody I met at a networking event recently, and they said, "Oh, swim time! Oh, I have lessons with you." And I said, "Well, great, amazing." I said, "What made you, as an adult, have swimming lessons?" And she said, "Oh, I just forgot how to do it." She said, "I'd been such a gap." And again, grandchildren came along, and she was like, "No, I want to be able to swim with my grandchildren." So she taught lessons. It is lovely when people come up to you like that and go, I love it because it's just me. It's my time. I focus on me, and it makes me feel great afterwards. And it's getting over that thing. It's the same for most adults with exercise. It's getting over that initial hurdle of, oh, do I really have to go? Recognize that you'll feel fantastic afterwards. And swimming's the same. It's still a physical activity, and the high that you get, the adrenaline rush that you still get from it, and those positive endorphins floating around your body. That's still, even for a child, they still get that. It's that nice high from achievement and being physically active.
absolutely. And I think there's something also nice to be, so children, obviously their parents make the decision, but the adults have actually come to you, they've made the decision, they want to obviously gain this confidence or be with the grandchildren or learn. You know what I mean? So they've come to you, they want to do it. So I bet that's quite nice when you see them achieve and progress and things like that.
Yeah, it is. It's great for the teachers, and you'll find that most teachers like to have that mix of classes so that they get that. feedback themselves. They actually see the transition, because an adult's going to turn around and give you feedback far more than a child will. A child just wants to, have fun, be with their friends.
I bet it's nice to see. So I've got a note here about baby and toddler swimming. So I know we have touched on it a little bit, but can you talk through like some of the benefits that a baby would see and a toddler would see from your classes?
Well, a baby, it's about, well, both of them actually. It is about confidence, but for a baby, it's about learning to come to the surface, turning their body over so that they come to the surface. That's what most babies learn. And as a parent, obviously, it's very reassuring to know that your child has those skills. As a toddler, they can actually start to learn basic strokes. They can do doggy paddles. So as a toddler, they can learn to come to the surface, they can rotate onto the tummy or even their back, and then they can kick, and it doesn't matter that it's not pretty. So long as they can move in the water, that's what we try to achieve with most toddlers. And also to get over the fear factor of having water splashed in your face or occasionally going underwater. Because I think sometimes as a parent, obviously we're so protective over our children. If we see them go underwater, our natural instinct is, oh, they're drowning, it's stressful. It's horrible, isn't it? But that's part of the learning process. I mean, there are some baby swim schools that actually they submerge the babies underwater. And well, whether you agree with it or not, it is babies survive it. It isn't a problem. And the earlier you do that, supposedly, the better it is. Again, because they've been floating around in the amniotic fluid, so it's quite a nice, comforting environment for them. And then with toddlers, is you want them to know that and recognize that if they do fall into water and they go underwater, they will naturally look up and know that they're going to come to the surface. And that's the difference, is that a toddler will more than likely be able to save themselves. And it's about instilling that, not panicking, being calm, confident, knowing what to do, and just really just automatically going into that thought process.
And what about the slightly older children, so kind of the school children? Is that when they really start to learn how to swim and how to do it?
Yeah. Yeah. So there are various stages that we take children through, which just encapsulates a journey with some of our fun characters that we've got here. But they will effectively go from beginners, intermediate to advanced. And one of the challenges, and I think it's the same for a lot of parents generically, is keeping your children engaged in an activity. So up to age 4, there's something like a 56% engagement rate. You hit age 4 to 6, it drops to 46%. You hit age 7 plus, and it drops to 42%. And then it just continues to decrease thereafter. So the challenge is to keep children engaged in a something. Because if it's not swimming, then it could be football, it could be trampolining, it could be rhythm time, it could be baby ballet, not baby ballet, but it could be ballet, a whole raft of activities out there. So it is important to recognise that as a parent, they are going to push back more as they get older, but it's finding the activity that they want to get involved in, because as long as they're doing a something, they're engaged with an activity, that's as much as we can hope for. That puts them in a really good place.
Absolutely. And in terms of swimming, and you've got with the older children, well, toddlers to older children, would your approach be to actually explain to the child why they are doing this, for the safety and for the
Oh, absolutely. So we do lots of things, like we go into school. Yeah, we go into schools and we talk about purely about water safety. We talk about cold shock treatment as well. So what it's like to fall into really, really cold water and how your body will naturally react to it. So those things take place, and we also include elements of the water safety in every single lesson. It forms part of our program. So it's things like learning to float. So even if you can't swim, you're not confident, you can't even doggy paddle, if you can float, there's a higher probability that somebody is going to be able to rescue you. So it's about helping people to learn to survive for as long as possible before help can arrive. Um, and that's really our approach, is that building in the safety aspects of it. So at the beginning of a lesson, a teacher will always say the do's and don'ts of the lesson. So for example, if the children are told to hold on to the side to repeat an activity, if the children start playing around and let go, they will invariably go under the water. So they will quickly learn to do follow um, obviously, it is all about safety. It has to be all about safety, but to start with, and it is about building that confidence, that water confidence, and knowing what works. It's things like that our teachers will teach them when you see the life belts on the side of a pool, they'll point to it, or if there's any of the guide poles for reach poles at the side of a pool that they're having lessons in, they'll explain what one of those is and how it's used. So if ever that child is in that situation, it's like, when we teach children first aid, they might not remember every single aspect of it, but they'll remember key bits that can actually not only help save their lives, but they might save somebody else's life at some point.
Absolutely. And I think it's so important, as you say, to keep it fun and this great activity that they're all, having a great time, but also to include those safety elements. Because if anything did happen, if there was, heaven forbid, but something happened, they'd remember key points and they'd know that that's a life jacket, or that, that's the lifeguard, or, that type of information. So I think that's really good. So you mentioned you go into schools, so you do kind of talks to schools and to children about the safety. That's, but without them actually going into the pool.
Yeah, because it's part of the curriculum, particularly for the years 5 and 6. Water safety does form part of the curriculum. So we do talks in schools on that. Invariably, we just go into schools just for free, and because we'd rather just share the message, um, and make sure that people are equipped and have got the right information. Uh, if they then go on to choose to have lessons, fantastic. If it's not with us, it doesn't matter, because the fact that they learn to swim is the most important thing.
Mm. And have you got any advice for parents at home that would like to know a little bit more about water safety and where they'd find that information?
There's a lot online. I mean, you could go onto the Swim England website, that they've got stacks of water safety information on there. There's some on our website as well. But it's things like at home, but with your children, playing in the bath is a really good way of introducing some water safety, and playing games and splashing their faces, and just making water a fun, safe environment, but making sure that they understand the dangers of it as well, because drowning is still the highest cause of accidental death within children. So the more we can do as parents to equip our children to understand the dangers, the better. And it's not about instilling real fear in them, because that's not going to help. It's about educating them on what some of the challenges are, what are the things they've got to look out for, like, so that they remember things, that when they become teenagers and they go out to quarries on really hot days and think, what I did to jump in. Yeah, that type of statistic breaks my heart when you read that, and people get into difficulty because they forget it's deep water, they forget it's really icy cold, and that their body is effectively shut down. It's having the thought processes before that to go, it's a really hot day, but do you know what? I don't know what's in that water. I don't know the temperature of that water. How is my body going to react? So the sooner we can teach those skills, the better. Share that knowledge, the better. Hopefully, we'll save more lives.
Talking of parents, I popped on our before our chat today. I put it on our social media, and we've had quite a few questions from some parents that they'd like to ask you. So if that's okay, I will fire those at you now. The first one is, I think we have touched on it, but then this lady asked, "What's the best age to start swimming lessons?"
Yeah, 6 months is kind of the ideal age. I mean, if you're a really confident mum, I was thinking back to my first, I think as long as they're 12 weeks, they've had their first round of injections, then you can take them swimming around about the 12-week mark. What you've got to consider, the younger you take them, it's not only great for the baby, but it's great for you as a mum because it's a bonding experience as a mum. I mean, you must find this within rhythm time classes as well, where it's as much about the parents bonding, sharing their experiences with about the children, and sometimes that's really needed. It's a really important.
Yeah, in those early days with Rhythm Time, we offer young baby classes, and they're literally from, birth, a couple of weeks after birth. And it's just great to get the mums into this, or dads, into this routine of leaving the house and having something to look forward to each week. And as you say, the bonding, and then also meeting other parents as well. Um, so yeah, that's kind of what we see as well. But yeah, that's great. So earlier the better, really, with the best time to start, if you're brave enough. We've got one here. We've had a couple like this. My child is quite anxious around the water. How can your instructors help to build their confidence?
So the instructors will be able to spot a nervous child quite easily. They will invariably have a chat with them one on one, try and understand what it is that they're actually scared of. Because usually it's something specific, like they might not like getting water in their face because they don't like the way it feels on their eyes or something like that. So the teacher can structure it so that they only gradually get exposed to water being in their face, so that they gradually get confidence over it. Also, something that if your child is really, really anxious and not confident, a really good way of tackling that is by having a couple of private lessons, one-on-one lessons first. Build up the confidence and then integrate them into a group, because it's better all round. Then as a parent, you're going to feel a lot more comfortable putting them in a group situation. The child will definitely want to be in that situation because they're with their friends, and it's that, again, it's that whole social interaction that they get exposed to at school. They can experience it there, but having that one-to-one session, even if it's only a couple of weeks, sometimes that can be enough to get the child's confidence up to a level where they go, yeah, they don't cry when they see water, or they don't get upset, or they feel a lot less anxious. And because a teacher will spend a lot of time coaching them and understanding where that fear is coming from and helping them tackle it and overcome it.
Mm. I think that's really nice as well, the one-to-one option, because some children, as you said before, might never have even been in the water. So just having that literal one-to-one, so they know that actually this is okay, and then joining their friends perhaps a couple of weeks down the line, it would really help. So I think a one-to-one option, if they are really, really anxious, is a great idea. How do you handle children with the different? You have mentioned this before, but the different learning paces in the group session. So it's more all about kind of noticing that and giving other children different tasks whilst you focus on that child.
Yeah, so it is about the teacher recognizing that the more advanced or the more confident children would be given a more challenging task, and those that need the attention of the teacher, or they need a task that they can complete more easily, so therefore they feel more confident because they've got an instant reward of, wow, look at me, I've been able to do this. That's how the teacher would structure that lesson, so that they're still all in a group, but they're doing slightly different activities that helps develop that child and develop their confidence and their skill sets.
Mm. And are the groups based on age or is it more ability? Do you group them?
It's more about ability. So again, as a parent, you have to think about if you've got a 9-year-old child who's never had swimming lessons, if you introduce them to swimming lessons straight off, they will be put with beginners. Those beginners could be age 4 and 5. So, as a parent, you would have to say to yourself, do I want my 9-year-old going in? Will they be happy? Some 9-year-olds are, some they don't care, it's fine. But for some people, it might really matter to them. So, again, it goes back to that have a few one to ones, let them establish some kind of skills that then maybe means they go in at a slightly higher level that's maybe more age appropriate. But it's really down to the child and their ability, because obviously there's no point in putting a 9-year-old in an advanced class where his peers or their peers are going up and down doing lengths and they're still doing doggy paddle and they might be swimming 5 meters. That's not fair on anybody, the teacher, the child, or the parent.
Yeah. Okay, that sounds good. Any tips for parents to continue developing their child's swimming skills outside of lessons?
If at all possible, if a parent or a relative can take the child to a swimming pool in between lessons, fantastic, because you can repeat some of the skills that you've learned. Or even just letting them play in a swimming pool helps them develop that confidence again, which is really good. If you can't get to a pool, play in the bath. Maybe have the bath slightly deeper so that they can get the feeling of their joints pushing against the water, that they can maybe float a little bit. Obviously, you don't want a bath that's really, really deep so that they could drown. That's not the ideal scenario. But there are things that you can do in a bath at home that is playful. And again, it's all about that fun aspect. Introducing the fun so they retain it and they're not frightened of it then, that it just becomes a fun activity.
And also, I guess those like splash pads at the park with the water, and I bet that's all good, making like water fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and anything that includes water. I mean, we used to do, like, especially during the summer, we had one of those like inflatable slides that have little water spouts down the side. I mean, the boys used to love it, and we would get all sorts of people stopping and children joining in because it's just a fun thing to do with water, and it all helps build that confidence.
Brilliant. And then finally, what shall I? Well, we have mentioned this, but I will just pop the question on again. So, what shall I bring for my child's first swim time lesson? So, it's just their swim time bag, isn't it, that they'll get, and then their trunks or their cozy, and that's it.
Yep, that's literally it. That is what you need. Because and then as a parent, you just need to think about the practical things of are they going straight home afterwards? If so, you might want to put them in an oversized hoodie or a sweatshirt rather than getting them completely changed. Or if they're going from one activity like swimming to the next, you know, bring whatever kit they need for the next activity to the swimming lesson. It just takes a hassle out if you can think ahead and plan ahead a little bit. But some swim towel, a towel, a swimsuit of some description, your swim time bag, she'll have had that in the pack. That's really what you need. You don't need to take anything else. Goggles, if you've got them. Not every child likes wearing goggles, but if you have got them, brilliant, bring those along as well.
And what about food? Do you recommend eating before, eating after? How?
That's a really good question. Uh, As with most activities, and again, a parent will know this of their child. Like my youngest son, for example, uh, I made a dreadful mistake with one activity, letting him have a hot chocolate because he was really hungry and cold. So I said, "Oh, yeah, have a hot chocolate," and he then drank that and went straight off to do an activity. The hot chocolate made a reappearance. So it depends what the activity is, but I think an hour before you do an activity is really sort of the latest you want to leave it from an eating point of view. From a swimming point of view, I always used to, with my boys, do a light tea beforehand and then give them some snacks afterwards, a cereal bar or something like that, a banana or an apple, something like that, where they can just top up because they will have expended quite a lot of energy, as do most children.
I always remember being really tired after swimming lessons, really tired. You had so much more energy than you think.
It really is because you've got the heat outside of the pool, so the air temperature is always incredibly high. That in itself is quite tiring. It's an entire body exercise. So you're using every aspect of your body. So you are going to burn some serious calories. So yeah, it's incredibly tiring.
Thank you so much. That's all of our questions. And I've really, really enjoyed our chat, Rachel. Honestly, it's been so interesting kind of learning about the additional skills that you can get from doing swimming, not just the safety element of it. But yeah, what I'll do is I'll pop for any of our listeners at home, I'll pop all of Swimtime's details in the box below, the website and where you can find more information.
Yeah, yeah. There's a question section as well on the website. So, but yeah, just get in touch.
Fabulous. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak to us today, Rachel. I've really enjoyed our chat.
Me too. It's been great. Thanks, Lucy.